Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. Welcome if you're new here, and welcome to my virtual studio in Vermillion. As you can see beside me, we're going to be painting this fox today, and I hope to not only teach you how to paint the fox, but how to paint fur in general, so you can go out and paint other animals as well. If this is the first time you're seeing Vermillion and you have a VR headset, I encourage you to go check it out. If this is going to inspire you to go purchase a VR headset, if you buy an Oculus Quest 2 like I'm using this one, you can use my referral code below when you start your account, and you will get $30 free to use on their store, and that will more than pay for the Vermillion app, which is pretty sweet. This one's been a lot of fun. This is the first time I've actually painted this fox before. I've never painted it before, unlike my other tutorials, so a few steps we're learning together, but the same principles apply to all the animals that I've painted before. And so I'm really excited to bring this one to you here today, so let's jump right into it. Alright, here we are at our canvas. We are going to go into the little menu there, start a new painting. Here's where we're going to choose our size of our canvas. I'm going to go with a 24 by 18, as you can see there. So if it isn't at a 24 by 18, use your right hand there to adjust that size. Once you got it where you want, hold your hand in the middle and you are good to go. We're going to start with just a background, and all we're going to use for the background is just some black. And so we're going to take our 2-inch brush here in just a second. But since we're just doing kind of like a clear overlay of the background, a good hint or tip for this is to just now shrink your canvas down to the smallest it'll go. Grab your 2-inch brush, adjust your grip how you want it, and take just a little bit of paint thinner and some black. And we're just going to cover this canvas here. And by using a little bit of paint thinner, it's not obviously a pure black, it's almost like a nice metallic gray. And we're just filling that up there, as you can see. I'm just brushing out any of the texture that's there. It by no means needs to be perfect, we're just doing a general background. If you want to, take just a little bit of white in there just to kind of mix it up a little bit. You can do that. And then if you really want to blend it out smooth, we can put our 2-inch brush down, grab our blender brush there, and just give it a nice once over, smoothing out any of those rough spots there. Alright, again, your background doesn't need to be perfect, we just want a general background. Once that's done, you can bring it back out to our bigger size that we were working with here. And now if you haven't used like the overlay or the projector screen on Vermillion here, I will show you how to do that here. So we're going to open up our menu, and you're going to go to the top left menu option there. So this is where you probably have the tutorial open already, and if you haven't ever searched for anything just on the general web before on Vermillion, that's what this search button here is for. So you can go on to there, and I got the reference photo that we're using from Pixabay. And so if you want to, in the search menu there, you can type in Pixabay. In Pixabay, I just searched up fox, and it was like the 4th or 5th one down. I've bookmarked it here. You can add bookmarks, so I'm going to click on that. I will put the link for it in the description, so you can just click on it in the description as well, and that'll make it easier for you to find. I guess one other thing that we can do right now, before we get too far into this, is we're not really going to be blending anything with the background. The background is just going to be as is. And so I'm actually going to go to our layers menu there and just click on the second layer and head back to our website there. So you can click on the little projector there in the top middle right, and you'll see the multiply automatically puts it onto the canvas there, kind of behind the canvas. Overlay kind of puts it on top. For what we're using it for right now, either is fine. I'm going to use the multiply, and I'm going to stretch this out with that top right there, and we're going to make it as big as we want it here to be. So I want it even larger than that. And I want it to be just slightly off-centered, so he's more on the left-hand side here. And so his right ear is going to touch the top, basically. That's the lineup I'm going for. So now we're on this next layer. All I'm going to do is I'm going to take our rigger brush here, and with our rigger brush, I'm just taking some white and some black, making just a medium gray. We'll make it a little bit lighter. Just making a light gray, and all I'm going to do with this light gray is I'm just doing the outline of this guy here. And I'm doing it slightly inside where those fine hairs are going out. Because in the end, when we're making those fine hair lines, we don't want to have to be dealing with this paint at the same time. So often when I do animal paintings, this is what these are my first steps. I outline the main proportions of the animal before I go in and work on any details. This just helps me keep track of where everything is. If you want to, let's try the overlay. And where did my options go for that? Oh, I need to put the brush down, that's why. There we go. I'm going to change to the overlay and just turn down my transparency there to about there. Okay, we'll work a little bit into here on his face. If you've ever painted wildlife before, maybe this is your first time, and if it is, I am very happy that you are here. Proportions on an animal are very important. If you get the placement of the eyes wrong, it's going to be noticeable, unfortunately. So that's why I like to use like a projector kind of style like this to just get things going, because then you know that your proportions are correct, and that's the nice thing to have and nice to be able to start with. So I hope that things that I'm teaching you today will also help you if you wanted to try one of these with actual paint. If you want to press B here to get that smoother brush stroke, you can do that. So I've done the eyes, the nose, the mouth, the ears, and just kind of like these general lines of changes in the fur here. They're going to be painted over, obviously, in the end, but this is just going to give us an idea of where everything needs to be. Alright, so that's all we need to do with our projector. If you want to leave it on there, you can, but now when you take it off, you can see that you have a nice outline of your fox there. So I'm going to leave this picture up as I'm painting so I can make reference to it myself. I'm just going to put put it over here a little bit closer for me. And yeah, now we can jump right into it here. So a key thing when painting wildlife is layers. Layers are really important, and I always start with the darker layers first, kind of set up the background, and work to my lighter highlights in the end. And so with this guy here, I'm going to just start just in the bottom area down here, maybe a little bit more with kind of the white, gray, and black fur all around in here, and then go from there. And again, if you ever want to project that back on, as long as you haven't moved anything, it's going to be right where you left it, and you can always kind of check things as you're going to see if they're in the right spots. So that's really nice to have. It's a really cool feature. So I'm going to reset my palette here. Reset that by pressing Y, and I'm going to bring this just slightly closer for me. And let's get into it here. So we're gonna try a couple different ways here. I'm gonna start first with a bristle fan brush. Now, I use a few different types of brushes when I'm doing fur on actual paintings. A fan brush is definitely one of them. I do use at times a bristle short brush here, a rigger brush. Very, very small rigger brushes to do very fine hairs, and we'll get into that as we go. But for this one, I'm going to start with our bristle fan brush. And with that, since we're starting with the darker layers in the back, I'm just going to take some of this black, mix it into the middle here, take some of this brown, and with that, I'm going to turn my brush so it's kind of at an angle going downwards. As we are painting the fur, we want to have our brush strokes be going in the direction that the fur is going, right? So we're not going to be brushing up and down or side to side the whole time. We need to look at the way that his fur is going in the photo, and that's the direction we're going to be going. And so I'm going, as you can see here, towards the bottom left. And you can try a few different angles. I'm brushing lightly right now on it because that's giving me a bit more texture. And that's coming all the way up into here. And you can see as you go, that's turning into some really nice fur-like texture. I'm keeping it nice and light, not doing anything too harsh here. Since I didn't use the whole photo of the fox on the very bottom, just was checking to see where I went. And I kind of went from this part up. So he's got some dark fur up in here as well. And right up underneath that neckline there, he's got some dark fur. Don't be worried about it being dark right now because we're adding more layers on top. This is just our base layer that we're getting on here. And base layers are important to create texture and that real true fur look that we're going for. So then he's also got some black fur right up in here. So we're going to add a little bit of this throughout here. And along his cheek here as well. So I'm going to go to this side. And if you ever need to press B to get that smoother stroke like I just did, don't be afraid to. And as you can see, it's definitely up in the ears there. So I'm going to add some of this darkness up into the ears here as well. And along the back of his ear too here. But you don't need to worry too much about that, because we'll use a different brush when we go in and do more of that. We'll go in on the side there in a minute. Okay, so now we're going to get to our next layer. We're just going to add just a little bit of white into this, and I'm going to add a little hint of orange already here to see what we can get. So we kind of have like a gray with a little hint of orange. I might need to get it a little bit darker actually. Yeah, we'll go with that one right now. We want to make sure our layers are clear. We're probably going to end up doing 4 or 5 layers on top of this guy here. And as you're doing the layers, they don't need to cover up everything, because you want to be able to see the layers underneath. And so with this guy here, with this next layer that we're adding, I'm not covering up everything. As you can see, we want to see those dark layers and continue it on as we go. The fan brush gives you nice variation in brush strokes, the bristle one, and that's really, that irregularity really gives you a nice natural fur texture. So I'm going to go right to the edge of my line right here with this gray. Again, just keep that brush going in the proper direction. I can't stress how important that that direction is going to be in your final, for your final product. And I'm starting to cover up these white lines there. And that's okay, because in the end they'll be gone completely, and we'll blend them right out in the end. Okay, now I'm going to move down to this lighter highlight that's got, actually no, hold on, first take some of that gray, mix it in with that white. Now we got a nice really light gray. That's what we're going to add in next here. And if you get that fan brush right on its side there, you can get some really nice straight hair looking lines there too, if you haven't already noticed that. And things start to blend together, which is totally fine. That's what we want. That is going to give us our nice smooth transitions between layers here. And if you haven't already noticed, you can really see a nice fur coat coming on this guy already, even though we're only doing these colors right now, eh? So the more that I get these lighter colors in here, the more you can see that I'm going over my my guidelines here, right? I'm starting to really blend those in here, because the further we get in here, we don't want to have to deal with them later. That was a little bit thick there. Keep those brush strokes nice and soft. And if you ever mess something up there, just hit that undo button. That's why I love this app. You don't need to try to fix it or anything. You can just hit the undo button. At any point, you can save your progress, right, and just come back to it. You don't need to do this all in one sitting. The thing I love about this is there's no cleanup. Honestly, right now, I've got a 2-year-old, and she takes up a lot of my time, which is fine. She's awesome, but sometimes I just don't have the motivation to get into the mess of everything to paint. It can be harder because maybe I'll only have a half an hour or something like that, and so to be able to just have everything already there, there's no cleanup afterwards, is great. I love it. Gonna keep on going a little bit here on this part. And if there's ever like a really fine detail that you can't get with the fan brush, just a hint, you can always just increase that size as big as we can go. And now this little spot right here that I wanted to get is much easier to get, right? So you can do that at any point on this painting. Just blow it up for a minute, and then the orange lines tell you exactly where it was to begin with. Okay, I'm going to take some white here, and I'm actually going to go with just pure white here. No, I'm not going to. Not yet, at least. I'm going to take just a hint of this blue here. Mix it in with that. Not enough. Let's take a little bit more. We're just going to add a little bit of this bluey white in right underneath him on this side here. And all that's doing is just adding a bit more depth for us in throughout here. I'm not doing a ton of it, just a little bit in throughout. And behind here as well, we'll add a little bit of this in there. And again, underneath. Because a lot of times, well, yeah, I should say a lot of times. A lot of times shadows aren't just black and white, right? Shadows are different shades of a color. So by adding this little bit of blue into here, this is going to help those stand out a bit more. Alright, now I'm taking almost white. It's got a little bit of gray in it still, and I'm going to go through here and really start fleshing those out. It might seem like a lot of tedious work, but it'll pay off in the end. Okay, now I'm gonna go in and just get some pure white here and really flesh out some of these lines here. And it's gonna start blending with what's around it, which is fine. The reason I'm kind of leaving some of this stuff in here is because that's, you know, some orange is going to be coming in here as well, so I'm not too worried about that spot. Alright, I want to try something here. No, it goes up there, that's right. It's going to take the, we're going to try two things actually. We'll see what we like. So here I've just got the oval brush, and with this I'm just going to go over top of some of these rough spots in the direction that the fur is going. I don't want to do too many, otherwise I won't be able to undo it. But I just want to see, because the fan brush does create really nice texture, but sometimes fur is also nice and smooth, right? And so I do like the texture that we've created, but I'm just going to go in with this oval brush, and I'm just going to lightly brush things out. Okay, I actually really like what that's doing here. I'm going to try as well with the blender brush just to see blender brush does pretty much the same thing. So I'm just doing it really lightly here. And we're just smoothing out some of the harsh textures that we don't want. And it's turning into beautiful, beautiful fur. If you want to brush it all out, you can. You don't have to. I'm just kind of trying it out here to see what I like. And the nice thing is with the edges here, with kind of the wisps, you can just lightly brush it out side of the line that we had there, and it gives it really nice wispy texture. But I think the key part here is, if you're doing this, that you really keep your strokes going in the direction of the fur, right? There I just did one in the wrong way, so I need to undo that. Because that's really going to allow that fur to settle on the proper spots. Change that grip as you need to. If you like the texture, you can leave it. You don't have to do it this way. This is just an option. And this allows you to push that paint really where you want it to go. And I think it really gives great texture to it. Alright, so we have the basics down now of kind of the black, gray, white fur. We are going to be moving into that orange fur. Sorry, there's just a couple spots I'm going to grab there. You can always do some adjustments at the end, which I will probably end up doing. Okay, so I'm going to set that one down for a minute here. I've already got a little bit of orange going on. I'm going to still use that fan brush because I like what it's done so far. And with that fan brush, I'm going to take this darker orange. So you saw me earlier, there was some black and some brown and some orange mixed into this. It's just nice and dark. And I'm going to just take this and do the same thing that I did with the other one, but now kind of all over. If you ever want to put just paint down below you there on this little tray, that's a decent spot for it too. Since this is the darker orange, I'm not being too cautious of how I lay it out. We're kind of just spreading it out there. Because really we want this dark orange to cover most of the rest of the fox. There's some really light spots up on his face here that we might not really use it, but the rest of the fox is going to have a lot of this orange going on here. So, but again, I'm still keeping my brush strokes in the direction that the fur is going, because you might be able to see through still, and we want to keep it going in the right way. Okay, let's move up here. I don't know about you, but I'm really excited about this one. This is looking awesome. If you've never painted animals before, just wait until you get to the eyes. Some people paint the eyes first and go to the outside, and if you're one of those people and you're thinking, what the heck am I doing? I'm sorry, but I love doing the eyes last because it really just brings the whole thing to life. It's phenomenal. Once you get into the face here, the direction of the fur can sometimes get a little bit tricky. So just take it slow. Don't feel like you need to rush through and add stuff in. Get that line good where you want it. Again, this is just our base layer. It doesn't need to be perfect. This is far from perfect, this one here. But by doing this right now as well, this is going to kind of lay out for us the direction of the fur, and it's going to help us with the rest of the painting when we go in to do the other layers, because then we're not going to have to check back over to our reference photo quite as much. That ear kind of comes down right there, also kind of comes up right there. Kind of a tricky spot. And right on his face, it's not that the direction of the fur is almost non-existent, right? It's just very, very dotted. So I'm literally just dabbing this brush on here until you get into the forehead here, and then it does take an upwards direction again. I did the directions a little bit wrong here, so I'm actually just going to undo this back into here. There we go. Because it does go up, but then right here it starts to curve its way back down already. And so we're already going to get it going back this direction. Right here. I decided just to do the rest of it with this color. I know right here where I'm painting right now, it gets pretty light in the end, but it doesn't hurt to have a little layer of orange on there at all. Okay, that does it for that layer there. Let's set that down for a minute. At any point, if you want to save that painting so you don't miss anything, just in case something happens, you can always click back onto there too. Alright, before I continue, I want to give you a tip. You might have noticed that my palette has changed and my little tray in front of me has changed. That's because I had to stop because this is a longer tutorial, and come back to it. And I came back to it, started it, kept on going. I got to the point where I wanted to blend out the orange layers of fur that I had all laid down, and I start blending it with the blending brush, and I'm thinking something quite isn't right, and these darker colors that we have down right now weren't blending in, and I was a little bit confused by that. And I go back in and I look that when I reloaded this back up, it automatically defaulted to painting on layer 1. And so I just went in and I erased everything I had done there, and I need to go back in and paint on layer 2, because then the blending just wasn't going to work, because this darker layer of fur was above the lighter layers of fur. So just a tip, if you do stop at some point and come back to it, make sure you double check which layer is active before you continue, and then you won't lose a bunch of time like I just did. But I guess live and learn, right? Now we know that, now we can continue from there. So I will explain how these paints were mixed as I get to them, and we'll continue from there. So make sure you're on layer 2, head back up to your reference image there, and we'll continue on with that fan brush that we've been using. And I'm just going to check here. Our canvas mixability is still there. We're going to leave it as is for now. And all I did to make this next color of orange, I just took pure orange and mixed it with that darker one that we were doing right here, and that made this now more medium orange, and I have some of that below me here, and I'm going to take that now and go in and start mixing that around. Things make so much more sense now. Oh, that was frustrating, because it wasn't even blending in with the whites and the blacks, and I was so confused as to why things weren't behaving the way I thought they should. So, and already this is going much better, but I lost about 45 minutes there in the end. So again, just make sure that your brush strokes continue to go in the direction that the fur is going. Yeah, and when I was painting, these white lines weren't really blending in much with anything, and I was like, why is this happening? Why isn't that blending in with the paint that I'm laying over top of it? And already you can see it's covered it up, and this is much better than what I was just dealing with. But I did have the rest of the layers all done on there, which was too bad, because fur takes layers, a lot of layers. And again, it'll be worth it in the end. So even though this color of orange isn't the main orange that is going to be on top here, I am just adding a little bit in throughout it. And then we'll add our lighter highlights on top. Oh, this makes so much more sense now. So I'm just going through and adding this layer in where it's applicable. Okay, now I'm going to move to the next orange. And the next orange is actually just pure orange. I didn't change anything to this one, just used the pure orange that you can see on the palette there. We'll go in and we'll add some of this. As you're going through, with these lighter colors, I'm going to change something in just a minute here. This one's doing okay still. And again, you don't want to cover up totally the layers underneath, because that's like, if you can't see the layers underneath, then there's no point in even doing them in the first place. So you want to make sure you can still see some of that stuff from underneath as you go through and add these next layers. Okay, from there I just added some white to it to get this next color here. You can see, yeah, you can see it down here. I'll put a little bit of it right here on the palette. So I just added a bit of white to it. And again, as you're going to get a fresh load on your brush, make sure you hit A or clean it off so you don't accidentally contaminate that that paint pile there. And I'll tell you again, don't cover up everything you've done. We're just adding on top. And this color I've got right here, I'm going to do a bit more in here. This is going to be the darker of the lights. So his face is really light up in here, as you can see. And so these are going to be it's going to be the background, the darker of what we see under on those spots. Alright, from there I added more white to it and got kind of this light, very light white. I'm going to add this in a few spots, but that won't be it. There's going to be more to it here. Actually, I guess before we do that, I'm going to do a little bit of other stuff. This orange right here that I've got, I just did yellow and orange because you can see here in these positions and up in his head, his orange fur actually it's more of a yellowy orange. And I think I might take a bit more yellow here and add it in here as well. And add some of that in there. Okay, once you got that yellow in there, I'm going to take this really light orange here and kind of work in these spots. These are more like the lightest highlights on the side of his fur here that I'm going to be adding. And I just made this by taking that yellow orange that I mixed and adding white to it. And you can see as layer and layer goes on, we're really filling in all these empty spaces on the fox. Alright, now I'm going to take this peach color, it's more just pure orange with white, and this is going to be added in here above his left eye and down. And in a little bit through here. Once we blend that out, that'll make more sense. Up onto his nose. And his nose, we're really just dabbing it in there, as you can see. Alright, I kind of neglected these two orange spots on his right side there. So I'm just going to go back in and add a little bit of orange into here where we see fit. Alright, I'm going to take some of this light yellow orange here, put some of this right here so we can see it. I'm going to take some more white to it, and we're going to take that color and just go right in here Actually, I'm going to try just some pure white. And as, yeah, that is too much. But later, once we take that blending brush to this spot, that'll be good. Okay, now I'm going to take just some pure white here and just add a bit more pure white in through some of his fur here. I think especially around his face, it's a lot whiter than what I got it with the first layer there, which is fine. So we can easily go in here, add some more white to it. And right here, it makes it a little bit higher than I did originally. I do have some pure white on the tray in front of me, but I just haven't used it yet. And it's not that the whole thing needs to be white. I just want it to be a bit lighter than what it is, especially right in here. You can see on the picture right here, and up in here, and right there, it's really white. Very, very, very white. And then down closer to where the fur is going to be mixing, it also is whiter than what I have. And I feel like once I start really blending these together with the blender brush, that having a little bit of extra white on here isn't going to hurt. Same with the side of his face here. The ears are okay, and the ears are actually more of a lighter color, so I've taken a little bit of that yellow orange that I'd already mixed with white, added just some more white to it to kind of add up into his ear here. And I'll add some on this side as well. And right on top here too. This really comes down in. And right here too, I have that too low. We'll work on some of the finer details on the ears in just a minute here. Okay, Now we're at the point where I'm going to take the blender brush and we're going to move some stuff around, blend things together, add things back in where we need it to go. So take your blender brush. I'm going to, let's double check. Got our sensibility up right. I'm going to just shrink this down to start, and it just changes the thickness, doesn't change the width, but I'm going to change that down. And I'm also going to increase the size of my canvas a bit, just so I can get feel like I have a little bit more control. And we're just going to take this, just like we did before, and just lightly blend it in with each other, right? Any spots that we touched up with the black and white spots, we're going to go back in here and we'll touch those up as well. Key part here again is just making sure that our brush strokes are in line with the direction that the fur is going, right? Because we're pushing it in that direction of the fur. Alright, this is working way better than when I accidentally painted on the wrong layer. So I'm going to push some of that orange back up in here, push some of it down, and then back out. Always want to end with that proper layering. Okay, I'm going to move over here. So between the orange and the white, I'm actually going to push it up into the white first and then back out. That's working okay like that. Because eventually when you push it back out, then that makes the layering look more proper, right? That the white is over top of the orange. Again, just keep that brush going in the direction of the fur. You can turn it sideways when it's thin like this and just push little bits back in if you'd like. And that's what I'm going to do with like the edges of his fur here on the thinner spots. Just kind of brush that out as if you're just brushing an animal, right? And on this part of his face, the hair kind of comes down more. So that's why I'm wanting to adjust that slightly. And it kind of comes down again. Okay, let's keep on going here. Again, we're just trying to keep the direction of the fur with our brush strokes. Every once in a while you can just step back and see how things are looking. Okay. And again, if you want the texture there instead of smoothing it out like this, go ahead and keep the texture, that's fine. I know I'm getting close to the top of the screen there, but you can still see the blending that I'm doing. It just makes it a bit easier when it's larger to work with here. I'm going to go back to the ear in a minute here. I'm going to do the rest of his face first. And let's do this side here. Just going to increase this and just kind of dab it in here a little bit. All right, once you feel like you've done everything you need to for now, you can step back and you'll kind of see where you need to make any adjustments. So for me, I can see that I need more black in his ears, and then we'll fill in his nose. Maybe a few light highlight touches up in a few different spots, but other than that, we're doing pretty good. So I'm going to take my fan brush, get some black in here. Really add this in here. Same with this ear. Needs a bit more. There we go. And I feel like I need more of this yellowy orange, lighter stuff right in here too. And then some of this darker orange that I had made right to kind of line that off. And also up in here. I'm going to start with that. Take my blender. And this side as well. All right, I'm going to take the smooth short flat, get some black on it. I need a little bit of black right in there. That's a little too much. But then he's got black all up his ear here, so I'm going to shrink this as low as I can go. Oh, we went too far there. And again, you can press B if you need to. And this is going all the way, you can see all the way to the top. Of his ear. I know I'm just barely in screen there, but and also on this side of his ear too. We're going to do a little bit up throughout, and that goes all the way to the top. Same with this side. Alright, let's try blending that in here and we'll see what we get. Can take the fan brush again, take some of this light yellow orange that I had and just see if I can fix up this ear a little bit. I feel like it's just not quite how I want it. Again, just a little bit on this side too. Just isn't. Okay, let's try that. All right, okay, from here, that ear's not bad now. Could use, grab this one, some of this darker orange again. Just right in there to really show that that's where the ear begins. Alright, I'm going to leave that for now. If I want to make any adjustments towards the end, we can do that. But I'll leave that as is. We're going to move on to the nose and the eyes and see what we can do with those. So I'm going to take just the smooth short flat. This is what I'd use in real life. And I'm just going to fill in his nose area there with black. And again, if you want to press B, makes it a bit easier when working through those edges there. And he's kind of got a bit more black going right along. Oh no, I'll leave the bottom of his mouth for now. We can come back and adjust that. Okay, I'm going to take the rigger brush and some of this lighter gray. Just going to be adding this onto the top of his nose. And if you start mixing a little bit with the oranges that are above it, that's fine. We want a little bit of that mixing, as you can see here. So I'm just going to slide this picture over right in front. Actually, that's pretty handy. I have it right beside me here. And this, oh. Get up right close and personal with it. Okay, gonna clean that off. Take a bit more black here. Went a little bit too high on one spot. And get a little bit of white, as he's got some white right on the side here. That goes up to the side. Oh, a little bit too much there. Okay. Some more of this. There's darker gray in here. That's going to go down in between his nostrils. And on the picture, you honestly can't even see between the two nostrils. And so I'm just going to be making my own. This side, I'm going to want to bring it in a little bit more. And bring this down a bit more too. I'm going to set that one down. I'm going to take the blender brush and just very lightly dab over what we're working with here. Blending out kind of this orangey creamy that we added right around. And I can see that I want to add a little bit more of this right in here. Okay. This stuff might be hard for you to see, and I apologize. This detailed work is a bit more difficult to show. Okay, I think his nostrils can be a little bit smaller. We're gonna just add those up there a little bit. Get some more of this black. No, I liked them better the way they were. Good thing there's an undo button, right? Once you got it where you think you want it, move this back over here. But in his fur throughout here, what I noticed was there is a little bit of kind of this orangey peach throughout. So I'm just going to brush a little bit of this in here. even down here on underneath of his mouth. And we're just gonna blend that in. Just blend it in. Okay, we got his nose. Now we need to do the fun part, the eyes. I'm excited for this. So I think what I'm going to do first, we're going to be working with this rigger brush. I'm going to take this and we're going to fill in a little bit closer to his eyes, the actual fur. I didn't really add those details in there. So again, I'm just going to bring this nice and close for us to look at. And I'm going to be using these colors that we've already mixed to really get in close to where the eye is and adding some of these colors. Okay, now I'm going to take black and I really want to outline where this eye is going to be going. Okay, I'm going to take some more of this darker orange and kind of close off this spot up here. And right here as well. Okay, take some of this lighter orange, and this is going in right underneath of his eyes. You can see on our image there. And some of it actually kind of comes up in here as well. So we'll reblend some of this out. Same with right in here. I'll be honest with you, this is my first time doing pretty detailed work on this app, and to be honest, I'm quite impressed with how it's working out. Okay, just gonna get a little bit lighter in here as well. Oh, that was too far up. Just glad for an undo button. That's very, very handy. Okay, now for the actual eye itself. If you look at it really closely, you can see that there's the glare, the glisten, right, from the light, but then most of his eye is kind of a brownish orange. So I'm just going to take some of this brown that I had mixed out here before, and we're going to go in here. And you might need to reset that brush quite often. And I'm just going to take some white, just go straight across there. Got it a little bit long, I'm going to shrink that down. Still a little bit long. And then I'm going to bring in the back of his eye sooner than what I had it before. There we go. The front part of his eye, I've got it a little bit long, so I'm just going to bring in a little bit of black there. Oh. And this very front part, I just need to close up just a little bit there too. Awesome. Okay, now let's do the other eye, and then we'll work on blending those out here in just a second. I'm not going to touch it yet because there's a couple other things I'm going to add in there. This is awesome. This is exciting. Okay, just wanted to do a close-up here of me looking at those eyes so you can see what I've done, because from far away it is a little bit tricky to see there. I'll back it up here. Hopefully that'll help working with those eyes. Okay, with the other one, same kind of thing. Actually, we'll take this orange. We're going to really close it in. Just going to add a little bit of red down here. Mix it in with this orange. Mix it in with a little bit of white. The shadow side of his face really seems to have more of a red hue to it than the other side. And I'm going to bring that all the way up into here and out. And now I'm going to grab some black and just like we did with the other eye, fill it in where the actual eye is going to be. Just adding in a few touch-ups here that I wanted to as well around the eye. On the eye again, I'm just, oh, that's too much. I'm going to be using those same colors for the pupil of the eye. In the picture you can barely see it, so we're going to have to improvise a little bit. Just take some of that darker brown that I had mixed. Oh, went too far out on that one. Take a little bit of a lighter brown. Add it in there. Take a little bit of white. Step back. If you don't like it, redo it. Alright, I'm going to set that brush down, grab our blender brush, and just work some of these spots in here. This back over here. Alright, take a step back and take a look if there's anything you feel like you need to adjust. Now's the time to make those adjustments. If there's anything you need to blend out anymore, now's the time to blend it out. If you want to add any lighter highlights in any certain spots, you can go back in and add those highlights. I just feel like I need to grab this brush here a little bit, just blend out a few spots a bit more. I'm going to shrink this back down to the size we had before. Take a step back. I need some more white. Just down in here. I don't like what happened there, so I'm just going to undo some of that. There we go. If you want to add the whiskers, I'm just going to try here with the knife. Just scraping the paint away a little bit. It's not really black, but it adds in Some nice whisker looking hairs here. All right, and I believe that has it. So again, this is your time to add anything you feel like you need to do. If you want to add anything to the background, go back to your layers, click on layer 1, and you can do anything from there. Thank you for painting this one with me today. I hope you learned something new that you can take on to your next project. If you haven't checked out my other tutorials, again, I encourage you to go back to my channel and check those out. And subscribe and hit that bell button so you don't miss future tutorials that are going to come. And we'll see you next time here on Brian Sloan Artist.